Now, for those of you bringing up Spain and the recent, Islamic invasion, again, Spain has had a constant, centuries-long back and forth battle with Islam, obviously, right? Over this issue, and part of the problem is the Roman Catholic theological positions, which used to be very obviously anti-Islamic, to their credit. Well, if Vatican II says that you all worship the same God, and if Gaudium et Spes says that it's chain migration, open borders, which it says, and if Pope Leo has said many times over, welcome all the migrants, then obviously the problem is, oh, and not just that, Roman Catholicism post-Vatican II has negated and surrendered the Christianization of the state. It literally says many times over, freedom of religion, freedom of conscience, freedom of worship, no more Christian states. In fact, the Vatican years ago even said it's time to de-Christianize these European states. This is the end result of that. And by the way, Fuentes admitted this again the other day on X. The very thing that I've been saying to him for like a decade. And he's admitted twice now that, yeah, this is correct. Well, then there's no reason really to be disagreeing with me. So let me find that. Here it is. Here's him saying it again. So, and he's probably said it more than this. I think I've even seen at least 3 clips where he's admitting this principle. And I know that Nick focuses on geopolitics and politics, but the main issue of disagreement with me stems back 10 years ago to the theological issue of the Vatican. And I've been saying for 10 years since we had that debate, it's not just a theology nuance thing. The papacy, if it is erroneous and if it is a deviation, then it becomes a tool of geopolitical machination. And you can see it, as I've been arguing for so long, in the way the Vatican promotes the destruction of Christian Europe.
Got the machine guns. Western Civ may have already fallen.
Yeah, seriously, man. It's so over. I wish we could just drop bombs on those people, man. I wish America would just go in with F-35s and just drop bombs on those people. If that's not an invasion, then what the fuck is an invasion? 40,000 people run through the gates, running through the streets, breaking into houses. If that's not an invasion, then what is? Why do you even have a military? What's the military for? If we got invaded by another country, it wouldn't even look like that. If we got invaded by China, it wouldn't even look like that. Yeah, there would be Chinese soldiers in the streets, but it wouldn't be a full-scale replacement, kicking down doors and setting cars on fire. That is a ethnic cleansing. So yeah, I just wish Trump would go in with the B-2s and just light them up.
Toilet Broy % $20. Francisco Franco, if you can hear me, please save Spain from the Islamic invasion.
Seriously. And unfortunately, the Pope is going to sit around and say, well, we need to be humanitarian with these.
But I got to understand, it's not just Leo or Francis's opinions. It's not just their political opinions. These people keep ignoring, or they're not aware of the fact that Vatican II has a geopolitical dogma, a geopolitical statement, a stance. It's called Gaudium et Spes. And the whole document is about essentially a United Nations attitude of a new world order. It actually uses that terminology, that a United Nations structure of global governance is the ideal, is the model. And we need to de-arm the nations. De-armament is what it calls for. It calls for the end of capitalism, and I have critiques of monopoly capitalism, but what they want is some form of weird gay socialism, which would obviously be a nightmare. And it calls for chain migration in Gaudium et Spes. Don't you understand? This is the official, since Vatican II, geopolitical stance of the Vatican. And everybody just acts like, well, no, this is just Leo's private opinion. He's a political lib. No, it's not just being a private political lib. It's the position of Gaudium et Spes, the Vatican II document. I knew about Gaudium et Spes 25 years ago, 26 years ago. It was one of the first things that I grappled with as a Roman Catholic. I don't even think 99% of the Roman Catholics know what it is. So it's not just the Pope's private political opinions. All of the Vatican II popes have had the same geopolitical stance. Because of Gaudium et Spes. They can't go back on that. They can't just, oh, by the way, sorry, we were wrong for the last 70 years on our normative, ordinary, political, papal normative teaching. By the way, it doesn't, whatever status, Gaudium et Spes is not infallible. So what? You still have to, according to Canon 752, follow the non-infallible teaching with submission of intellect and will. It doesn't even matter what the status of it is.
People. Really? What is their obligation? What is anyone's obligation? You notice it's only the white people that have an obligation. Our countries are being invaded. Our culture is being destroyed. Our society is being ripped apart. Not theirs. They're fine.
Yeah, and the papacy is one of the massive facilitators of that. That's why, even from the geopolitical standpoint, you could disprove the papacy. Even if we set aside all these key arguments and this and that, just on the vantage point of it being a destruction to Christian civilization, well, is that what Jesus wanted? Did Jesus set up an infallible, normative office of a geopolitical world ruler that's there to destroy the church? I mean, that makes no sense.
They will always have a home to return to. Our home, that's our home that's being invaded and destroyed. That's the birthplace of our culture is being destroyed. But we always have the obligations to everybody else.
Well, it's partly the birthplace of Filioque, but
They have no obligations. They have no, how about they get their own fucking drinking water? You want to talk about obligations? How about they have their own clean drinking water? How about they grow their own food? How about they police their own streets and kill their own terrorists in the Sahel? How about they do that? And how about they stop invading our countries? How about their governments keep their people from fleeing into our countries because theirs are so miserable? But it's always, when these people are here wrecking everything, we have to restrain ourselves removing them. I'm getting really tired of that.
dude, how ridiculous is it for all these Roman Catholics? I'm not talking about Nick, but I'm just saying in general, the audience that put on the PFP and the LARPing Crusader outfit as if they're Crusaders when their infallible head has for 70 years taught that you worship the same God as the Muslims. They pray in mosques, dude. The popes pray in mosques all the way back to John Paul II. John Paul II had his famous Jordan address where he says, may St. John the Baptist protect Islam. Not the people of Jordan, Islam, the false religion.
Hypocrisy or double standard. And it comes from the Catholic Church, and it's not cool. I'm sick of
This is what I've been saying. So this is essentially, I appreciate Nick's honesty on this point. So this is admitting the main thing that I keep saying for 10 years. Like, there's no reason really then to disagree.
hearing that. He goes to Lampedusa and says, we have an obligation to these people. Well, that's just disgraceful. You go to the site of this invasion and say, well, we got to be nicer to them. Well, the reason they're coming here is because their country.
Why did the Vatican build the Leonine Wall if they have an obligation to let all these people in? And by the way, are any of these people let into the Vatican? Of course not.
Is a shithole. Why don't you go there? You want to talk about human dignity? Okay, why don't you go there then? The reason they're coming to Italy is because they're poor and miserable and their countries are violent. So you want to be brave.
Yeah, a bunch of garbage Islamic societies. But this is supposed to be, according to Jake, the best thing for society, right?
Even go to Lampedusa and say, hey, we got to be nice to these people. We got to treat them with dignity. Why don't you go to the Congo and give them the lecture on human dignity? Why don't you go to Uganda and Nigeria and give them the lecture on human dignity?
People are making the joke, Vatican III written by the rabbis. Nostra Aetate was already written by the rabbis, openly.
And then maybe their people won't be fleeing and invading our countries looking for a fucking handout. It's sick. Anyway, people say he's the ant.
So this is what I've been arguing. So 10 years later, thank you, Nick. I appreciate you coming around. This is what we've been saying.